Sanjay has dialed in from Delhi. Sanjay, how can we help you?
Ma'am, good evening. Thanks for taking my call, ma'am, firstly.
Yes,
hello.
go on.
Hello. My query is regarding, there's a this initiative by the Investors Clinic. What they are offering is they've got certain properties in NCR region, wherein their plan is they'll be providing the property to us without any interest. I mean that the loan component, 20% we pay, rest 80% will be converted into 100 equated installments. And you're only paying the principal component of the loan. So if I take about 40 lakh loan, then it will be 40,000 for 100 EMI. So I just wanted to know about how good is this scheme, and should we go and invest in this kind of scheme?
So Sanjay, essentially what you're saying is the scheme allows you just to pay the principal and not the interest on that loan.
Yes. And they've got a limited number of properties. It's by all the builders like Supertech, Aditya, Najanara, and all.
Have they tied up? Have they tied up with any specific bank or HFC? Have they told you about this?
Yes. It's through India Bulls, what they're mentioning.
It's through India Bulls. Okay, so they've tied up with India Bulls and they're offering interest-free loans. Is there something like an interest-free loan in the market, Harsh? Is there a product like that?
Well, if interest-free loans exist, Tooth Fairy exists as well. My point is, obviously, somebody is paying that, and that somebody is you. It is just a question of how it has been packaged, right? So, I do not know about the specific scheme that he has mentioned. There could be issues here. The interest could be paid by the builder, right? And you are required to pay off the installments. I think the key issue here is who's taking the risk of non-payment by the builder. If the developer is paying the interest, then who's taking the risk? That is why that the tripartite agreement would need to be seen in terms of what happens if the developer will not pay the interest to India Bulls. India Bulls is not going to give a loan without interest. So very clearly the developer is picking it up, and that if he does not pick up, how will it affect you? That's one. The second is your payment dependent on the construction timelines. Now in a typical construction linked plan, you pay only to the extent the construction progresses. I mean the disbursements happen only to the extent that the construction increases. Here, if for any reason the lender has completely disbursed the entire loan, then whether or not the construction progresses, whether or not there is a delay, your liability to pay is absolute. So I think those are two things that you need to check. And I would personally be wary of any marketing schemes.
Basically, Sanjay, it sounds very nice, but you need to remember that if somebody is giving you a loan, the money for that loan has come from somebody else's deposit, or they have raised funds from somebody else. That is what they are lending to you. So essentially, it's somebody else's money that they are lending to you. So they are going to charge interest on it. That is a cost that they are paying for it, and they are going to ensure that the cost comes from you. Now, whether you pay it, whether the developer pays it, it's a different thing altogether. Also, what you need to remember is that the developer is not going to foot the interest payments for free. The developer is going to ensure that that money is going to come from you in some way or the other. So you really need to read the fine print before getting into any scheme of the sort. And like Harsh said, you need to keep in mind that if there is a delay in payment, then it will be your record that is on the line. It is your CIBIL record, your CIBIL score that is going to be on the line, and that will definitely be a blot. How long does it take to set your CIBIL record right, Harsh?
This one you can't set right, because if you have a liability to pay and if you don't pay, how can you set that right? You can only set it right by paying.
For no fault of yourself.
But no fault. You thought that that was not your liability. That's why I think this is inbuilt into the price. So try this. Tell them you're willing to pay cash. You don't need this loan. You're willing to pay one-time down payment. I bet you it will come at a big discount. That's the discount that's the interest that's inbuilt into the price.
So Sanjay, essentially read the fine print and be very wary of schemes like that. And key takeaway for all our viewers who've tuned in, there is nothing like an interest-free loan. If you take a loan for a period of time. You have to pay the interest for using that money which would have ideally if been given to somebody else, and the bank would have made money, lending that money. So you need to pay interest on a loan. If it is not taken by you from you upfront, you are paying for it anyway through some other means. So that is something that you need to keep in mind when you get into schemes like this.